wormholes, particle physics, extra dimensions. Are the wonders of so-called reality really what they appear to be? Or do we exist in an elaborate hologram? Is our universe the result of random activity or the result of intelligent design? If a creator was involved, can we discover him through our perception of divine order? This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Out of the multiverse, everyone can hear your silence. Welcome to Into the Multiverse. I'm your host, Josh Peck. With me in studio, my wife, my lovely, beautiful, wonderful wife.
You got it right this
time.
I got
it right. I won't do that to you again. And in studio with myself and my wonderful wife, a wonderful guest, Dr. Michael Heiser. Thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Last time we talked about cosmic geography, and what a mind-blowing concept. I mean, it really does kind of help shape the entire Bible and how to take these things. Today, we're going to be talking about ufology and the cosmic realm, another interesting topic. Now, if this is your first time viewing the show, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, there's actually a little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner. Go ahead and subscribe. And if you missed last week's episode, all the Skywatch TV programs are getting their own YouTube channel. So Into the Multiverse is its own separate channel, but of course we're still a Skywatch TV program, and this helps cut down on everything being piled into one channel. As far as the rest of the online information, I'll pass that off to Christina. Where can people find us online?
You can find us online. Just go to our Skywatch homepage at skywatchtv.com and follow the link from Into the Multiverse. Just click on that. Takes you right to our YouTube channel.
Fantastic. Well, I want to jump into this, and like last time, I'm going to let you have the first question.
Sure. Well, Dr. Heiser, as a UFO researcher, how did you come into that line of research?
Yeah, I actually got into this through the novel The Facade, at least in terms of sort of public note. As far as people, associating me with this subject. My academic training is in ancient studies. I have a PhD in Hebrew Bible, took lots of Semitic languages, lots of biblical theology. I was a professor for a number of years. And that might seem to be sort of a real disconnect between, all that stuff and UFO stuff. Well, in addition to the novel, the way it connects is the whole ancient alien mythology.
Right.
Okay, so, it's true. While I was in graduate school, I took the first year of what should have been my dissertation and just bailed. And I decided, hey, other people in the department go do a little personal project, for a year because you kind of get burnt out. I'm going to write a novel because it's just something I always wanted to do. I had, been interested in paranormal stuff, specifically UFOs, for a number of years. The absurd CNN press conference in 1997 was what took me from a dabbler to somebody that thought, I really need to pay attention to this. That was the press conference.
The Phoenix Lights?
Well, this was before that. It was the 50th anniversary of the Roswell event.
Oh, right.
This is where Colonel Haynes from the Air Force said that they believed all the Roswell witnesses had undergone time compression.
Yeah.
Okay, and I went out, I got the transcript from CNN, like I can't believe I just heard this. That, and what time compression was to the Air Force, and again, this was their third explanation of the Roswell event, which tells you something alone.
Right.
They said, well, we think all of the witnesses to this event thought they were in 1947, but they were really in the early 1950s because that's when we started using these crash dummies. I mean, he says this to CNN.
Wow. Talk about a reach.
And it was like, when I heard that, again, I was just a dabbler, and I had better things to do. But I heard that and I thought, there's somebody somewhere important that wants this myth to live.
Yeah, because that sounds just so crazy. I mean, they would have had to have known that this is a ridiculous story, so let's go put it out.
We're sitting here in 1997 and calling it the 50th anniversary for a reason.
Right.
Right.
Like newspaper headlines from 1947, July 2nd, July 3rd, July 4th. I mean, this is just a matter of record. So the Air Force is like, no, everybody thought they were in the 40s and they're living. It was so stupid. That I thought, somebody wants this story to not go away, and there must be a reason for that. And that's actually what drew me in. And it actually, a couple years later, a couple of years later, 2-3 years later, fed into what I eventually decided to put into the novel, The Facade. Because my domain, is ancient texts and biblical stuff and all that sort of thing. And so I thought, I'm going to throw that in a blender. I'm going to throw UFO stuff in the blender and conspiracy theory in a blender, just see what happens. Mm-hmm. And so out of that came this story. And that eventually put me on the radar in this little kind of weird world of UFO stuff online and shows like Coast to Coast AM. And then I became the friendly, I hope friendly, somewhat friendly.
We think you're friendly.
Christian UFO debunking guy. But I mean, I'll admit, in the early days, I more or less gave people, kind of a punch in the nose on the radio a little bit, because I would go on shows and I would say, I am what Sitchin pretends to be. Mm. I would just say that. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think he knew any of the ancient languages. He makes just dumb mistakes in all of them. And
you have a whole website dedicated to that.
Yeah, I'm the guy behind sitchiniswrong.com, where I do exciting things like go up to the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature and show people how to search for the term Anunnaki in the Sumerian database with one specific purpose in mind. Get the results back, click on the TR for the English translation, and go read. You'll find out that what Sitchin claims about the Anunnaki being from Nibiru, it's a fabrication.
Right.
It's not that it's there and Mike disagrees about the translation. It's literally not there. It doesn't exist. So I'm not quibbling about I'm a better translator than this guy. I'm just saying he makes stuff up.
Right.
And there's actually like a totally different story in the texts than anything close to what.
Right. So that's how I've become sort of married to UFO stuff. It's the novel, and the ancient alien stuff. And there's one other trajectory. Since my field was languages, and I knew people in the field of what we call computational linguistics. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy who had some of the Majestic 12 documents tested by a computational linguist.
Oh, wow.
And it was specifically someone who, her name's Carol Chasky. And Carol did her dissertation work at Brown. She has her own business now, and she's actually had a long history of being involved in court cases. And her thing is, and she actually wrote the computer program to do this, is something called authorship attribution. Mm-hmm. So if a letter has a signature to it, a claimed authorship, she can take known examples of that person's writing that no one disputes and runs them through her computer, because it's not looking for things like vocabulary, because you can fake that. You can learn the vocabulary of a field. Mm-hmm. It's things like, how does the author use punctuation? How do they use function words, connective words like conjunctions? Things that you just don't consciously think about. Mm-hmm. Patterns of usage. And she will test a known against an unknown to see whether this person wrote this or not. So I paid her. I paid her out of my own pocket. Go test the Majestic documents that have a claimed author about the Roswell event, and we'll see if it's credible to say that this guy wrote this and that. And only one of them passed the test.
Oh, wow.
So I put that out on the web. People can get that for free. Mm-hmm. I did a little article on her work and the study, and I actually presented it at Roswell one year too.
I saw that presentation on YouTube, and that wasn't that the first time that it had ever been tested in that manner. Yep. Wow.
Yeah, that was a first.
So cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Some people watching might be wondering, what does the field of ufology have anything to do with Christianity, or even in our last discussion on cosmic geography and all these there's different ranks to these celestial beings or whatever people want to call them. Yeah. How does the field of ufology kind of get into those areas, but especially from like a biblical worldview as opposed to maybe more of a secular or ancient aliens worldview? Yeah, I mean,
the field of UFO stuff, ufology, there's actually a number of file drawers for that. Mm-hmm. If you go to a UFO conference, you're going to meet different kinds of people there. There are the nuts and the bolts people, the scientists. Well, if this is real, I want to know how it works. Mm-hmm. Then there are military people. Well, if this is real, we want to weaponize it. Mm-hmm. And they'll show up at these conferences, very rarely in uniform, but occasionally they'll identify themselves and introduce themselves. Here's why I'm here. Here's what I'm interested in. But really, when it comes to your question, it isn't really the science types and the military types and the spooks, the CIA, the disinformation people. And you meet them all at one of these conferences. What it really is are the people who, for them, this represents an alternative theism,
right,
an alternative religion, an alternative belief system. And so, I get a number of emails, and I meet people at conferences that will say things like, I used to be a Christian until. And the until is followed by, I saw something on ancient aliens, or I heard this podcast, or I heard this radio show, or I read this book, or I had this experience. And when they don't get answers to their questions, or they don't at least get someone to affirm that, okay, I don't believe you're lying, I think you're telling me the truth, but let's try to think well about this, and you're thinking this way about it, maybe you should think this way about it. If they just get written off, they just tend to leave. And they begin to filter the Bible through that stuff. And so there's a really, for those kind of people who it becomes a belief system for them, there's a lot of connection between helping people think well about Scripture and about theology, about God, and this UFO stuff. It isn't just, again, a bunch of crazy people meeting together. I would challenge your listeners, and again, this will be a little inflammatory, but I've said it before, so I'm going to say it again. But I think on average, you will find people at UFO conferences that are more interested in having really deep theological discussions than you will at church.
Right.
They are primed. Okay, they are used to, because of their interest in this, they're used to asking big picture questions and talking about them. Who is God? How do we know there is a God? Is there more than one God? Why are we here? Who put us here? These are all big picture, inherently theological questions. And so it's very easy to get into a discussion with people at a place as odd as a UFO conference about the Bible, about doctrine. And it's not just, it doesn't always just end up in a debate about ancient aliens and things like that. A lot of it's like, well, maybe the universe, maybe the multiverse is a little bit bigger than you thought it was. And maybe the way you heard about this in church is only one way to think about it from the Bible itself. Because let's face it, there are no seminary classes on, alternative religions that are required, or UFO stuff, or New Age stuff. Pastors just run into this stuff. And if they have no background, if they don't invest a little time, I would say significant time into it, they really don't know how to even have a conversation with someone who has spent a lot of time, in that area. And they already have an axe to grind against what you're going to tell them. They're waiting for the simplistic answer. They're waiting for the, here's what you have to say because you're a Christian or a pastor. They're just waiting for that. Because that's going to reaffirm their stereotype of you and of Scripture. So I think it's a good thing to get involved, in this area. That why would we exclude people who are interested in this from the need of the gospel, or the need to think well about the Bible,
especially since they're so close.
Yeah,
that's amazing. When we come back, we're going to talk more about ufology, Christianity, and I want to even ask about Ezekiel's vision, which regular viewers of the show know that that's a big interest of mine. When we come back.
Coming exclusively from Skywatch TV for a very limited time starting May 31st, 2016. When you purchase the new book and final report from Tom Horn and Chris Putnam, The Final Roman Emperor, the Islamic Antichrist, and the Vatican's Last Crusade, you'll receive the largest giveaway of 2016, an unprecedented value of over $200 in free books, DVDs, audio files, and a data DVD library with tens of thousands of pages of ancient literature no longer available, as well as movies, WikiLeaks files the government does not want you to see, and more for your library or to give away as gifts. Included in this biggest giveaway of 2016 are Chris Putnam's full-length DVD presentation, Astrobiology and the Vatican ET Connection, the new 5-part Skywatch TV special investigative report on the book, The Final Roman Emperor, plus 2 mystery books with a $40 value, and a data DVD library with thousands of pages of ancient literature, movies, and audio series for your library or to give away as gifts. And for the first several thousand customers while supplies last, you'll also receive Satan's Dirty Little Secret, the 2 demon spirits that all demons get their strength from. Satan, You Can't Have My Promises, the spiritual warfare guide to reclaim what's yours. What happens when I die? True stories of the afterlife and what they tell us about eternity. Becoming a prayer warrior, a guide to effective and powerful prayer. An unprecedented value of over $200 in never-before-offered free products. And the biggest giveaway of 2016, yours absolutely free when you purchase the final Roman Emperor from skywatchtv.com for only $19.95 plus shipping, beginning May 31st. But be advised, this astonishing promotion is limited to first come, first serve while supplies last. So it's urgent, beginning May 31st, 2016. You place your order for the final book and biggest prediction yet in this 4-year investigation by internationally acclaimed best-selling authors Tom Horn and Chris Putnam. The Final Roman Emperor, the Islamic Antichrist, and the Vatican's Last Crusade for only $19.95 plus shipping. This offer is on a limited time basis and will end without notification. So be sure to visit skywatchtv.com to follow the updates in the countdown to the biggest giveaway of 2016. Order the new book by Tom Horn and Chris Putnam on May 31st to receive the unprecedented value of over $200 while supplies last. Free products limited to quantity on hand and may be replaced by products of equal value.
Welcome back to Into the Multiverse. Again, if you haven't had a chance to do so, subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're viewing this on YouTube right now, there's a little subscribe button in the corner. You can do that, and keep in mind that we have our own channel now. So stay subscribed to Skywatch TV. You'll want to do that, but you can also subscribe to us and the other shows such as Sci Friday, Skywatch Women, and everything else. So we're in the studio with Dr. Michael Heiser and my wife Christina Peck. I want to jump right back into this. Something that I've always been interested in since I've read the thing was Ezekiel's vision, and I know that this is something that's commonly, well, we'll call it what it is. It's misinterpreted in certain parts of the UFO community. So, from you, Ezekiel's vision, what is going on? What are we looking at?
Yeah, well, surprise, surprise, I don't think it's a UFO. And again, someone who would be listening to this on YouTube, it's, well, you have to say that because you're a Christian.
No, you don't.
No, I have to say that because I'm, if I'm cranky that day, I would say I have to say that because I'm intelligent. Okay.
Exactly.
But to be fair, I have to say that because we actually know what Ezekiel saw. Mm-hmm. And we know that from the artwork of the day, the sculptures, the iconography. I mean, this is a whole subdiscipline of ancient studies. The Bible's not immune to it. There are people who have gathered the iconographic information that accounts for all of the elements of what Ezekiel saw. Mm-hmm. And it's not a UFO, it's not a flying saucer. I mean, Ezekiel could have, if that's what he was looking at, he could have used words for shiny and silvery and round. And he doesn't use that vocabulary that you would expect.
Yeah.
He, in other words, of something flight-worthy, mm-hmm. Like that. Instead, he uses all the expected vocabulary for a divine throne guarded by cherubim.
So it's not that he was just so astounded by what he saw, he didn't know how to describe it.
He knows exactly how to describe it. Right. And again, we know he's describing it correctly and describing it well because we actually have the pictures.
Wow. Of
this stuff from Babylon and even from his own native country over in Syria, Palestine, Israel, that sort of thing. It's very well known. Mm-hmm. I mean, people would have sort of grown up seeing cherubim thrones if you live in this part of the world. Because when a king wants some battle or something about himself commemorated, his rulership, his kingship, this is the way he's going to be portrayed. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's just what you do. When he's paraded through town, this is what his throne's going to look like. People were used to this imagery. They knew what it was. They knew how to parse it. I mean, somebody's not going to, in the ancient world, an Israelite's not going to pick up Ezekiel and go on, what in the world is that? No, they know what it is. Mm-hmm.
Just like if we were to say UFO today, everyone's going to know what we're talking about.
Everybody's going to know what that is. They knew what they were looking at. They knew what he was looking at. Mm-hmm. And that's just a matter of the archaeological record. So again, I don't have to invent anything there. Just that's what it is. Now, what its meaning is, though, is to me actually more interesting, because if you look at the 4 faces of the cherubim, they are, again, in my view, not coincidentally, the 4 faces of the Babylonian zodiac. And again, when you say that, not that I've really said that too often in church, okay? I don't get asked to do too many things in church. Too many things like this.
Yeah,
anyway.
Baptist church calls you up and, hey, Mike, can you come and talk to us about the Babylonian zodiac?
Tell us about the Babylonian zodiac. It's not a coincidence, because it's a match, and again, with the iconographic record and what they thought about the zodiac. So what's the imagery? Well, you have this divine throne, again, on the round, flat, throne dais, and there it is. There's the throne. By the way, in Daniel chapter 7, the same thing is described with the wheels and the fiery wheels, and it's called a throne. Okay?
Yeah.
So, people often forget that when they're doing their UFO stuff in Ezekiel 1. But there's the throne, and it's sitting on top of the cherubim, and their faces are the 4 cardinal points of the zodiac. Well, the imagery is that the deity is in control of the 4 corners of the earth, and the 4 corners, the entire extension of the cosmic reality, the heavens and earth. This is the deity that controls the heavens and earth. Well, instead of Marduk being on the throne, which in the Babylonian context you would expect if you were a Babylonian, because you're familiar with the imagery.
Right.
What does Ezekiel do? He puts Yahweh on the throne. And he's writing in Babylon. That's what the chapter tells you. Ezekiel 1, they're sitting by the river Kivar in Babylon. They're wondering why they're there, because we're the people of God. How could we be conquered? I guess our God lost. I guess our God's not the best God. Or they're wondering, what are we doing here?
Right.
And so Ezekiel's like, okay, let me describe to you what's really going on, what your situation really is. And he goes through this whole throne imagery thing and makes it cosmic and celestial. And why does that matter? Because the heavens, people know that the course of the heavens determines time and seasons and days and months and epochs and years. And this is the way we measure time. So it's not Marduk that's in control of this. It's Yahweh of Israel. Yeah, you're in Babylon. You sure are. You're going to be here for a while. But Yahweh is still on the throne. He is the one that determines human destiny and the destiny of empires, not Marduk. So it is a really theologically profound statement, visually and in terms of the context in which it's described. And an Israelite reading that, especially someone who's a captive in Babylon, that would have been just what they needed to hear. Just what they needed to hear.
Wow. Yeah, it really goes to show that I think heaven, as you kind of alluded to earlier, heaven's going to be a lot stranger than we might think once we get there.
We've had other discussions like this, and it's going to be actually, how people portray it. They think it's more ethereal and wispy, but no, it's going to be more real. We're going to be in a more of a real state than we are now.
There's an angel that's a wheel covered in eyes.
Yes.
How much?
It's more real than what we see here.
How much stranger can you get? And you don't hear that kind of stuff in church nowadays. Or do you think that you talked about the ufology or UFO research almost becoming like a type of its own religion? Do you think that this might partially be some of the church's responsibility, because with taking everything away supernatural, the church just by and large doesn't want to deal with supernatural anymore. I tend to think that might create a craving for that. I think that we're made to have some sort of connection with that. So if that's being severed, is that possibly why these other people are going to these other things?
I really, the short answer is yes. And I think, when I hate to put it this way, but when you start to strip out, again, the supernatural stuff from the Bible, other than the stuff you need to even be having a Christian conversation.
Right.
Okay, somehow the Trinity and virgin birth, that's normal, but this other stuff is just, we can't go there, which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But if you start to do that, you make the Bible relative to, again, some of this UFO stuff, or just alternative religion worldview stuff, you make the Bible boring. I mean, you really do. If you can't penetrate beyond the story of the cross. In other words, and granted, that's theologically central to what Christianity is. But when they have other questions that really isn't the answer to,
right,
you're stuck. And you're going to sound to them like a one-string banjo. I mean, that's all you're capable of saying. And even if they like you, they're going to look at you and think, that just didn't answer my question.
Yeah, that's something that I was brought up in. And actually, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I kind of fell away from the Christian church totally and just went full-blown New Ager and really got into that theology because I thought I had all these supernatural questions, what are aliens? Are they real? I was dealing with sleep paralysis and these manifestations, what's going on there? And that's a whole other show. But coming back, what brought me back, God used people like yourself and Elia Marzulli and Derek Gilbert, Tom Horn, all these people to really show us that there is a whole other side to how to look at these things.
Yeah, completely changed the way we looked at everything.
Yeah. It's very important to let people know that you don't think that they're wackos, you don't think they're lying.
Yeah. If there is, we only got about a minute left. If there is somebody out there that might be dealing with this from their church or just don't really know how to handle these things, what would you suggest that they do as an individual Christian in trying to get more involved or just trying to find some sort of answers?
There are a number of good resources that deal with UFO stuff. Again, in not a negative way. In other words, not just saying, well, you're a cult member or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think my website can do a little of that. I think, your show does something like that. I think Lynn Marzulli's, will do something like that. There are places within the Skywatch sort of family. Mm-hmm. I would recommend Guy Malone, alienresistance.org. I mean, alien resistance might sound negative, but Guy is actually someone who has sort of lived this path. And again, has a lot of good things to say about his own experiences and how he processed them. So I would recommend that as well. And CE4 with Joe Jordan, if you're going through what others or what you might be processing as a quote unquote alien abduction experience, there's a strong spiritual component to a lot of that. And so if you look up CE4 with Joe Jordan, you'll get some help there too.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, unfortunately, we are all out of time. But again, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Christina, where can they find us online?
Again, just go to our skywatchtv.com and follow the links on the side there. You'll see Into the Multiverse with our pictures on there. Click on that. It will take you straight to our YouTube channel. And do not forget to subscribe. And also, if you have Roku, go ahead and check us out on Roku under the Skywatch channel.
And Mike, where can they find you online?
drmsh.com. That's my homepage. So it's the gateway to the blogs, to the books, to the podcasts, everything.
Fantastic. And again, like I said in the last episode, I highly suggest everything that Mike has out there. There's a ton of free materials too, YouTube presentations, podcasts, articles, lots of good stuff. So make sure to check that out. Thank you for joining us. And as always, take care and God bless.